Welcome to Chapter 12, Payroll Records. The essential outcomes for Chapter 12. You will prepare payroll records by A. Identifying accounting concepts and practices related to payroll records. B. Completing a payroll time card. C. Calculating payroll taxes. D. Completing a payroll register and an employee earnings record. E. Preparing payroll checks. And F. Connecting key terms in the chapter with application. 12-1 Payroll Terminology. Salary is a general term for money paid for employee services. Pay period, the period covered by a salary payment. Payroll is the total amount earned by all employees for a pay period. Wages, employees that are paid on an hourly basis, such as $9 an hour. Total earnings or gross earnings is the total amount earned by an employee before deductions. Analyzing a payroll time card. The image on the screen is an example of a time card. It is divided into sections. On the top section, we have the employee number, the employee name, and the pay period ending. Below that, we have when the employee punches in the morning and when the employee punches out for lunch. Then we have a section for when the employee returns from lunch and punches in, and then we have a section for when the employee punches out at night. There is also a section for overtime where they would punch in and then punch out. And then there's a section for hours calculated, regular hours and overtime hours. On time cards, the hour is divided into 4 15-minute quarters. Using 2 o'clock as an example, on the hour is 2 o'clock. 15 minutes after the hour is 2:15. 30 minutes after the hour is 2:30. 45 minutes after the hour is 2:45. The dividing number for the quarter hour is 7. For example, 2 o'clock to 2:07 rounds back to 2 o'clock. 2:08 to 2:22 rounds forward to 2:15. Let's look at an example at rounding on a time card. If you have an actual time recorded as 7:58, the nearest quarter hour is 8 o'clock. If you have an actual time recorded at 12:25, the nearest quarter hour is 12:30. If you have an actual time recorded of 1:32, the nearest quarter hour would be 1:30. If you have an actual time recorded of 4:18, the nearest quarter hour will be 4:15. Before continuing on with this PowerPoint, please record the nearest quarter hour for this slide. When you are done, come back and continue working. Let us take time here to talk about how we actually calculate gross earnings. An employee earns $12 an hour. The number of hours worked is 88 hours. Overtime, 2.5 hours. The first step is to calculate our regular hours. We will take the 88 hours worked times the rate of pay, which is $12, and we will find that this employee earned $1,056. The second step is to calculate our new overtime rate. We do this by taking the hourly rate, which is $12, and multiplying that by 1.5, which will give us a new overtime rate of pay of $18. The third step is to now calculate our overtime hours. So we will take the 2.5 hours and multiply that by our overtime rate, which will give us $81. The last step is to calculate now our total earnings. We will take the regular hours of $1,056 plus the total for overtime, which was $81, which will give us total gross earnings of $1,137. Now that we have just finished an example for calculating overtime pay, please stop and I want you to go through and I want you to calculate based on the hours worked and the regular overtime. I want you to calculate regular hours, overtime rate, overtime hours, and total earnings. Once you finish this, please continue on with the PowerPoint. Now let's look at an employee's time card. First, we will calculate the number of regular hours for each day and enter the amounts. Then we will calculate the number of overtime hours and enter the amounts. Third, we will add up our regular hours worked and our overtime hours worked and come up with a total hours worked. In this case, we have 88 regular hours worked, 4.5 overtime hours, totaling 92.5 hours worked. Then we are going to enter the rate for regular time in the rate column, which is $12. We will calculate the regular earnings for the 2-week period by multiplying the 88 hours times 12, which gives us $1,056. Then we will enter the overtime rate. So we will take 1.5 times the $12 and come up with $18 for our new overtime rate. Then we will calculate the overtime earnings by adding multiplying 4.5 times 18, which will give us $81. The last step is to add our regular amount earned and our overtime earned to get our gross earnings or our total earnings of $1,137. Working together 12-1. Please open your accounting book to page 344. You will need Work Together page 309. You will also need to pick up the time cards on my desk and complete the time cards. When you finish the time cards, please review the answers on my desk to make sure you are correct. If you need assistance, as always, please let me know. That's all, folks. Thanks for participating. Please return to the website for your next PowerPoint.